Hey guys, and welcome to the DBGA podcast, a podcast where we interview top level executives inside leading and growing companies in the beauty and e commerce industry. Excited to have our guest today, Yug Varma. We'll be diving into his story and a little bit about what his company does and some engaging insights in the beauty industry. So I'll go ahead and kick it off to you, Yug. Could you please introduce yourself and tell a quick snippet of your story and your background prior to working at Phyla?
Hey Rachel, thanks for having me. It's great to be here. Thank you for introducing me. I'm Yug. I'm the founder of Phyla, and the startup behind it, which is called Phi Therapeutics. So we are a biotech startup looking to change the way we treat some chronic bacterial diseases with a technology platform that impacts the microbiome. As you can imagine from that small intro of my company, I'm a scientist. That's my background. I got my PhD at Johns Hopkins in bioorganic chemistry, and then I did a postdoc at UCSF, which is what brought me to the San Francisco Bay Area. I've been working on the microbiome for about 13, almost 14 years now. And it's a very young field, it's less than 20 years old. So it's been a real pleasure and a privilege in many ways to be a part of the research that has come out of this be in this field, because I think unlike other scientific fields that I've been a part of, the microbiome feels very much something that's in the zeitgeist. It's something very current. It captured the imagination of a lot of people who don't necessarily follow science, and it should, because what we're learning collectively is that the microbiome is very important for our health. And so, as an entrepreneur, having left academia after more than a decade in it, my goal was to take some of the insights and the discoveries in the microbiome space and translate them to products that people can touch, people can purchase, people can incorporate in their lives, and then make a difference to them. And so, as a scientist, finding myself in the e-commerce world, it's great. I've learned a lot. I've enjoyed it, and obviously continue to learn. But it's been a great journey, somewhat unconventional. But I hope the kind of unconventional nature of it gives some value to your listeners.
Yeah, definitely. And so, thank you for sharing this. You kind of touched upon how you got into the beauty industry, but what is about your job or industry that you're passionate about?
I'm passionate about the technology that we have that's at the core of our company. It's called phage technology or bacteriophage technology. And I've been actually following this field both academically and on the industry side for about 20 years now. So I've had a lot of time to look at it and really try to understand what's going on, why people succeed, why people fail. And those insights kind of led us to build the company the way it is. Um, what I'm really passionate about is making this technology known to everyone, so people know what phages are, what they do, how they can be applied to their lives, build products using this technology, not just for acne, which is our current product, but for eczema and beyond. And then ultimately show people that there's a better way than, let's say, antibiotics or harsh ingredients or harsh products that impact your microbiome in a very negative way and ultimately don't give you the results you want while giving you all the side effects that you don't want. That there's a different way from that, that there's a better, more technologically advanced way to approach it.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing this. And so, like you said, you've been in this industry for a while now. So, based on your experience, what are the current trends in the market that you are aware of? What winds are blowing? What are you noticing?
I think the biggest trend that we're seeing, so we're, in the acne space, which is a little different from normal skincare, and it always has been because, let's say you're going out to buy a moisturizer or a toner or a cleanser or soap or whatever, right? I do this too. I go into the aisle and I sniff a bunch of soap and I put a little bit and it's more like touching and feeling and kind of using your senses of like, oh, what do I like? Is this a scent I like? Is this a texture I like? And an investor friend of mine called it lotions and potions. That a lot of skincare in this category, rightly so, pays attention to that, and because consumers base their purchasing decision on that, right? But that's changing, and it's always been like that for acne, but I think it's changing overall with skincare, in the sense that people want performance more than just, oh, does this feel good or does this smell like roses or oranges or whatever. It's like I want this thing to perform in a certain way, and yes, all the brands out there promise that it'll perform in this way, but is that true for me, right? And then basing your purchasing decisions now and in the future on that, so that every customer loyalty and retention is just so important in building a DTC business. That is really what you have to crack in order to kind of have a successful business. And that's at a very fundamental level, right? Because for all of these brands, product is at the core of what you're offering. And so, yeah, product is number one. You have to be obsessed with it. You have to be very kind of uh, obsessed with how high quality it is. So for us, where we stand on our science, and we're really developing breakthrough science to address this particular condition, it's very easy for us because we have to be obsessed with it. It's a new technology. It's a frontier technology. A lot of science goes into it, and so we have a very high level of quality. But a challenge, if you can call it that, is how do we convey that, right? How do we convey the care that we put into each product to our customer and make them understand that this isn't just the same thing in a different bottle, right? That you can go out there and buy an acne product with the same active from brand X or Y or Z. This is really something different. This is something that we've worked on in the lab for almost a decade before this came out. Um, and then help them understand that it's really biotechnology in a bottle.
Okay. Thank you so much. And so now I would love to learn more about your company. So could you tell me about your company and what products are over at Phyla?
Yeah. So Phyla is currently selling an over-the-counter acne product, and it's available on our website, phylabiotics.com. We're currently 100% D2C, going to be changing that up soon. We launched about almost 3 years ago. It'll be 3 years this summer. And prior to that, we'd actually run a clinical trial. So we actually have clinical data backing our technology and backing our products. The clinical data was very kind of interesting and very clear in the sense that we showed a significant improvement of acne over baseline. So when people start, the acne they have versus when they stop using the product, the acne they have is very much less. And we also found that the mechanism by which the product works, our technology works, was validated. And so we're seeing a massive decrease in the bad bacteria, which also increases the microbiome diversity of your skin. And the reason that's important is that it is really beneficial in the long term, because one of the most common experiences of acne sufferers is relapses, right? You try something on, it works for a couple of months, it's a little harsh, but you stick with it because you're seeing results and you're excited. And then all of a sudden it stops working and you're really frustrated because you're back to square one. You don't know what to do. Should I continue? Should I jump to something else? And unfortunately, because there isn't a lot of innovation in acne, there's not anything else to jump to. It's the same, like you use a benzoyl peroxide product and you switch to another brand selling the same benzoyl peroxide, in a different bottle. So it's not like you have a ton of choices. And so, yeah, we've been able to give people a choice they've never had before. And to date, we've served tens of thousands of customers. We have more than 1,000 reviews, probably 1,500 at this point, on our website. And it really shows how it's not just another product, but it changes people's lives, because acne is such a focal pain point for many people who have it. And people who don't have it tend not to understand, or people who used to have it, the memory tends to fade. But it's a very immediate concern, and it's something that people really want a solution for.
Yeah, definitely. And so you kind of touched upon this already, but I really want to give you the chance to really dive into this topic. So, what unique value do Phyla products bring to your customers?
Yeah, the majority, pretty much every acne product out there is very harsh. It causes redness, dryness, irritation, inflammation. And it's not that it's causing damage to your skin, which is, delicate and inflamed and in a very vulnerable state, which seems paradoxical, because you want something gentle and taking care of your skin instead of damaging it more. But these products come with a certain amount of skin damage. But the way they work is that, because acne, the core part of acne is that it's caused by the overgrowth of a bacteria called C. acnes. All the solutions for acne, benzoyl peroxide, antibiotics, retinoids, Accutane, all that, they all are antibacterial. They're all trying to kill bacteria, right? However, they're not killing just the bad bacteria that's overgrowing. They kill all the bacteria on your microbiome, right? And I liken it to, let's say you go out in your garden and you have a problem because you have a weed growing in your garden, right? You never think, oh, you know what I should do is take some gasoline, pour it all over my garden, and set it on fire. Right? It will solve the problem, I guess, but that's not any kind of reasonable solution. Instead, what you would do is you'd scoop up that weed, right, and you'd throw it away, and you'd replace it with a plant or a patch of grass or whatever. So why don't we do that to our microbiome? When there's one thing that's bad that's overgrowing, why are we setting fire to our microbiome every single day? Um, what Phyla does is it does the weeding solution instead of setting fire to your microbiome, where we're able to kill just the bad bacteria, keep all the good bacteria around it just fine. And that leads to not just great results in the short term, but great results in the long term. Because all these active ingredients that are harsh and are killing all the good bacteria in your microbiome, they're actually depleting and thinning out this microbiome. And what we've learned is that the skin microbiome, like your gut microbiome, is a protective layer on your skin. It protects you, it keeps you healthy, and it prevents other bad things from growing on your skin. And so when you're depleting that, it's no wonder that you're getting more relapses, because now the overgrowing bad bacteria, there's nothing holding it back, there's nothing to hold it in check, because all the good bacteria that will kind of crowd it out and keep it in place are now being depleted. And so what we found is that people have some pretty impressive results, but for the long term, it gets even better and better.
Okay, yeah, awesome. And so that's very interesting. And you were mentioning earlier that educating customers to this new science, because it's relatively new, the microbiome, the study of the microbiome. So, what are some of the challenges for you of being the CTO at Phyla? What do the day-to-day challenges look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I'll touch on the communication piece first, and then I'll talk about what I do as a CTO day to day. Um, you know, Look, skincare is a crowded market. The acne market is even more so. It's more crowded than, well, I wouldn't say any other skincare vertical, but it's pretty up there. And as a result, especially when you're playing in D2C, right? Everything from bidding on branded, unbranded, Google search words is expensive. Targeting customers on all these platforms is expensive. And fundamentally, we're like another new brand. I feel like there's a new brand for acne coming out every week or every month. Uh, and so it just feels like it's really crowded. And for us, where we have a highly differentiated product, completely new technology that we've spent years developing, putting that out there in a ad that people will see for a fraction of a second and then swipe away or move away from is challenging. Um, and the impact of this is not lost on us, right? Because I was actually talking to a few derms this past month, and I think I had 3 or 4 conversations where every conversation ended up with, "Oh, okay, you've shown me all this data, you've shown me the clinicals, you've shown me the kind of the walk me through the science. Why haven't I heard about this before? You've been in the market for 3 years, and even before that, this technology has been broadly around. Why haven't I heard of this? This sounds awesome. This sounds amazing. This is something that I could never give to my patients before, but now I can offer it, and it will be very beneficial." And for us, we kind of shrug and we say, look, we're at the beginning of our journey, right? We're still a very young brand. We're still early stage. And we're trying to get the word out. But that's the challenge in a very crowded market where the price of attention is expensive. It's difficult to break through. But like with all things, every overnight success is like 7 to 10 years in the making, right? And you're like, oh wow, I've heard about it just now, and I'm hearing about it everywhere on TV and in ads and all that. And well, it takes a certain amount of time to kind of build that momentum. And I think this year and next year, it feels like that for us. And so I'm really excited for the road ahead. Um, for my day-to-day job as a CTO, I transitioned into the CTO from a CEO role because I realized a couple of things. The first was that as we're focused on building a great, consumer brand and a D2C business that, goes into omni-channel soon, we really needed someone who could manage that omni-channel and grow it rapidly and in that kind of way. And of course, as a CEO and as a scientist, you're learning new things all the time and you're building that, but there's an opportunity cost of like, is it worth my time learning this from scratch versus, having a team that's done it before, that can execute on this and has that experience and just move faster, make fewer mistakes. And then as a founder and as a CTO, I'm always able to give input, right? In terms of, hey, like scientifically, we're going after this, or we're opening up a derm channel, or talking to estheticians. How do we present the science and all that? That's really important. So that's part of my daily job, and that's why we're talking today, right? Like science communication is a central pillar to our business. The other part is just the science, because we're dealing with a new ingredient, a novel frontier technology that has never really been launched for acne before. We're the first ones, and today the only ones for acne. We are also innovating and continuing to be at the forefront of phage technology, where we're using really cool tools to make our product better and better and better. And that's what's really cool about DNA based whole cell, these kind of cellular technologies that are coming out versus benzoyl peroxide, right? Benzoyl peroxide is a molecule. You can micronize it, you can make it into smaller pieces or whatever, but you can't fundamentally change benzoyl peroxide. It's just a molecule. It is what it is. With a living organism, you can optimize it. You can engineer it. You can evolve it. You can push it here and there, and you can make it better because you can optimize it. And that's what's really interesting, because over the last year and a half, we've actually been able to do that in the lab, and we're seeing some really fascinating results. And so I'm really excited about putting better and better versions of our product in the bottle, and excited to see the benefits that gives to our customers in a very direct kind of way.
Thank you so much for sharing all of this. I think it's very, very interesting. And you mentioned that the journey to getting known, especially in such a dynamic industry, is long. So, what type of mindset is needed to be a successful
Oh,
CTO?
well, I think obviously you've got to be resilient, right? And we have very tangible goals in front of us of like how to make the product better, or what to do in the next 6 months, and what the deadline is. But science often is unpredictable, right? You're doing the experiment because you don't know how it's going to turn out. And so, unlike a lot of engineering problems, right, of like, oh, I need square bottle packaging, or I need an orange bottle, or I need a formula that has a viscosity of 10,000 CPS and looks white and feels like this and absorbs well, or stays on the skin. These are all engineering problems. They're very easy to solve. With science, it's like, can we do this? Well, I don't know. I'll do it, and then I'll let you know. And so that is kind of the unpredictable nature to it. But I think that as a scientist, the training that you develop, especially doing science over a long period of time, you develop that kind of thick skin and resilience, where you're like, look, I know that 9 out of 10 experiments that I do, heck, 99 out of 100 experiments that I do are not going to work out, right? And that one experiment that I do will be the big breakthrough that I've been looking for. And so you have kind of that built-in resilience from just the mechanics of science, and that's very useful, I think, in entrepreneurship. So I think being resilient, I very much like the attitude of Stoicism, the ancient Greek philosophy. I think Stoicism is very useful for, I think, most people in their daily lives, but especially for entrepreneurs, of not letting the great times carry you away and being over exuberant, but also not letting the bad times and the tough times get you down too much, but maintaining kind of an even keel. And so those are some of the principles that I try to adhere by. Some days I succeed more than others, but that's how it is.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. Thank you so much for sharing it. Now, I want to transition a little bit into a different topic because, as you know, we're a data analytics company. So I'm always curious to hear about other people's experiences when it comes to data analytics in the industry. So, in your experience, how does data influence decision making and strategies in the beauty industry?
I mean, I think data is obviously very important. It is something that helps you make tangible decisions and also helps you, measure, right? So if you're not measuring a problem, you can't solve it fundamentally, right? Because you don't know how bad it is and where you need to go, which direction and how far. And so whether data is used in kind of orienting ourselves of like setting KPIs where, hey, where do we want to be at the end of this quarter or the next quarter or by the end of the year, and setting ourselves goals, or if it's like how do we measure this, right? Customers, whether it's customer satisfaction, which is a little more squishy, but obviously there are many tools to do that, or it's something like retention, which is just much more tangible. Um, and then breaking that down where you're saying, oh, we have an objective, we have a KPI, but then what are the factors that affect it? How do we break it down? And really importantly, how do we track it? I think those are really, really important. And data plays a central role in all of those things. And so that's one part of it. Obviously, the other part of it is scientific data, which is a completely different ballgame, and really not what you guys do with data analytics at DBGA. But
No, yeah.
that's a separate. We use a lot of big data, and we sift through massive quantities of data, whether it's genomic information or just all sorts of tests and studies that we run.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, the data they use on clinical trials is definitely something a little different. But could you elaborate and share some insights on the role of data analytics in understanding consumer preferences and trends within your company?
Yeah, I mean, we've been paying more and more attention to how different aspects of the business kind of coalesce and give us that boost that we need, right? But to really achieve revenue goals and to achieve other goals. So whether it's, website conversion and click through rate and like, um, developing different landing pages for different personas, right, that purchase. Because a person who's a teenager buying a product for themselves, or on the other side, a parent buying for their teenage kid, they're what they're looking for, or the way you talk to them is very different from someone who's in maybe their 20s and has like adult acne kind of going into their early adulthood, or someone in their mid 30s to mid 40s who had acne on and off all their life, but they've tried everything under the sun, they know so much, and they're very educated, and they're looking for more, like, tell me why this is different, give me a reason to pick up this product, versus the other brands I've known and heard about that are probably 100 times bigger than us. So those are obviously like bits of a whole, right? Because you want to you push your conversion rate up, yeah, 10% or 20 or 30%. It's just a fraction of a few points there, but that has a huge impact, right? That has a water flow effect, because then 6 months later, wow, your customer base is so much bigger, and then you're able to then say, okay, we're ready to drive volume into this. And I think data helps you to place bets, right? Because you optimize, and then you say, oh, okay, I think this is a good, in a good place where if we drive traffic to this site in the way that it's built, or the stack that we've built so far, it's going to have, it's not going to be a leaky bucket, right? You're not going to be wasting and being inefficient, wasting resources and money, really importantly. So data, I think, helps build the bricks in this house, right? And it's kind of the both. I would call it kind of the cement, right? Because it really helps you to put things in place. And then you're like, yeah, there's a reason this brick should go in there, because it's perfectly fit for that hole. And whether it's using the right tool or using the right design elements, or the right branding, um, data is essential in making all of those decisions.
Yeah, definitely. I like to see it as like a flashlight that allows you to see which direction you should take. But yeah, thank you so much for sharing. Now I'm curious to hear what are the projects for Phyla. You mentioned maybe transitioning to B2B earlier in this conversation. What is your vision for the next 12 months?
For the next 12 months, we want to go omni-channel, go into retail, go into uh, you know, we've been making inroads into dermatologists and estheticians. And it's really important for us because we are a biotech company. We have a, technologically advanced and very differentiated solution. But as I shared, very few people know about this, not as many as we want, certainly, and probably never until we reach 100% of all dermatologists, we won't stop. Um, so yeah, retail and omni-channel and these are really important for us right now. Another thing that we're really focused on is driving brand awareness, and this is again part of the puzzle, right? Of like, I want everyone to hear about phyla and phages because acne affects 85% of us at some point in our life, right? So it's a nearly universal condition, and so if you don't have it, someone, a friend, a family member who has had it or is having it and is struggling from it. And acne, I think, is really important because it's not just a skin disease, it's not just skin deep, it is a mental health issue as well. And a lot of people suffer from, kind of crises of a confidence and kind of really a jolt to their self esteem with acne. And so it's really important for us to give them the best options they can have, and then provide them with something that doesn't hurt them, where they don't have to compromise on their skin health in order to get a certain result.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. And yeah, very exciting projects coming then. Now I have a last question. It's a loaded one, but I like to ask it. I think it's a good way to kind of wrap things up. So, what are some of the most important things you've learned in your career?
That's a great question. I've learned so much. I mean, as an entrepreneur, you learn by doing and you learn by failing. And this is something I tell my kids too, which is that when you win, you don't learn. It's only when you lose you learn, right? Because when you win, okay, you did great, but what did you do right? You don't really know, right? Because it could be a number of things. Maybe you did three or four things right, and you don't know exactly which thing was important or pivotal for you in getting that win. When you lose, you kind of have to introspect. You have to think back and analyze a lot more, and it gives you this opportunity. I think it's a learning opportunity, right? And so you shouldn't ever lose. You should only win or learn, right? There's no loss. So that's, I think, a good way of. It's just a different way of looking at it. It helps with morale as well, of course. But I think learning from your mistakes is really, really important. Some other things that I've learned are, um, and this is kind of a science thing too, right? Like, don't be discouraged. Often the mountain you have to climb seems really big, but it's really important to break it up into stages and little bits and then tackle those little bits. And, it's the same with data, right? Data can be often very overwhelming. And, you talk about the flashlight, it can be almost like blinding in that sense, where you're just like, oh my God, there's so many things I can analyze. Should I look here? Should I look there? And I'm sure that's something that you guys help brands and companies with, in terms of, hey, we'll right side you, we'll orient you, and we'll help you look at this and figure out what's the important stuff, and how to focus on that. um, Having focus obviously is really, really important. And coming from academia, where so much of science is serendipitous, um, um, when you're writing your PhD thesis, what you end up with is almost never what you started off like trying to study, because along the way something happens, your stuff doesn't work out, but you observe something else that's interesting and you go find that. And that's actually how science does and should work. How you are productive in science. But in the startup world, when you're building a brand, you can't do that right? You've got to say, hey, we got to accomplish this in the next quarter. We've got to do this, and 6 months from now, we have to have a result. So I think that's clarifying. I find that refreshing because it gives you some very tangible things to aim at, and it forces you into a discipline where you're like, yeah, I can't mess around. I've got to get stuff done. So yeah, those are just off the top of my head things that I've learned that are very useful.
Thank you so much for sharing. I think it's very, very wise advice, and I definitely relate uh, to a few of those. Yeah, so thank you so much, and thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Now, for the people that are listening or watching and that want to reach out to you, where can they find you?
Yeah, so as I said, we are Phyla, Phyla. Our website is phylabiotics.com. That's where we have our products. We share our science, we share our clinical data, and all that good stuff. So I think that's kind of the central information hub for Phyla. We're also on socials at Phyla Biotics, on Meta, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, etc., TikTok. Yeah, we're a small company. We're early stage. We have this really cool technology, and it's a completely different approach to acne that is helping people, get the results they want and have good skin for life without the harsh side effects. So check us out if that's what you have and you're interested in finding a solution.
Thank you so much. I'll put all that information in the description of the podcast. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And we hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Take care.